A friend of mine, which I met few years ago, told me to tell her story when she was no more. Before I continue the story, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel for more exciting stories. During Ijeoma's father's burial, her uncles and auntie flew from far and near just to attend the burial. It was her first time seeing them. Her name is Ijeoma Ejike. She's the only daughter of Ejike, who just passed on. Her mother died during her birth. She never knew her uncles and aunties could visit her. Her father told her about them. She spoke to few on the phone, but she had never known any. When her father was sick, it was just her and her father. Her father tried all he could. He tried and struggled for his life. As a 13-year-old girl, she could tell that her father was eager to live, but death took him away from her when she needed him the most. At this point in her life, nothing mattered again. She wore black clothes, likewise all the guests that attended the burial of her father. Their compound was filled with different calibers of people, the rich, the poor, the young and the old. The truth was that she couldn't recall or recollect how the burial was planned, but here we are today. Tears filled her heart, a 13-year-old, an orphan and no one to run to. Her friends came to console her, her schoolmates who came with their guardians. She was seated in the living room with her favorite neighbor, Auntie Ebere. She had been the one holding her strong since her father became sick, and she took good care of her. Auntie Ebere protected her like her own daughter. Auntie Ebere, she fondly called her, was 25-year-old and she was single. Ijeoma laid her head on Auntie Ebere's lap as tears dropped from her eyes. People entered the living room to console her. Then, this middle-sized looking woman, putting on a sunglass, entered. From the way she was dressed, one could tell that she was very rich. "Hello Ijeoma, I am your auntie Amaka, your father's stepsister. Your father must have told you about me," she said. And she was right. Ijeoma's father has once mentioned to Ijeoma about his stepsister. After introducing herself, she made her a promise to take good care of her and make sure she lacked nothing. After all the promises and talk, she gave Ijeoma some money. Ijeoma thanked her and she went outside to continue with the burial. A couple of other relatives also came into the living room and gave Ijeoma money. After consoling her, they made her promises to always be at her back, that she shouldn't hesitate to inform them when she needed anything. One brother Mike specifically gave Ijeoma his phone number to call him when she needed anything. She kept the number safe. The burial ended smoothly. 1 month after the burial, Auntie Amaka came to visit Ijeoma. She had called Auntie Ebere that she was coming. She came to take Ijeoma to stay with her. Auntie Ebere was relocating. Even though Ijeoma didn't want to go with Auntie Amaka, Auntie Ebere promised her that Auntie Amaka would take good care of her and she would attend the best school in the city, that she would also call to check up on Ijeoma time to time. It was also good for Ijeoma to spend time with her own relative. Auntie Amaka drove Ijeoma to the city, where she lived with her husband. She had a little baby as at the time Ijeoma visited. Ijeoma was welcomed into the home and a special meal was made for her. They told her to feel at home and she should tell them when she needed anything. The family was welcoming. Everything was going well until 3 months later, when Ijeoma reminded Auntie Amaka about the school she promised her. She told Ijeoma she would do that. She hadn't forgotten. 5 months later, when Ijeoma was doing some house chores, Auntie Amaka got back from home and called Ijeoma to come to the living room immediately. When Ijeoma came to the living room, she saw Auntie Amaka seated with a man who is probably in his late 50s or early 60s. She greeted him. She told Ijeoma to bring water for their visitor, and she did. Ijeoma was full of innocence. When she came back with the water to the living room, her auntie told her to turn around in front of the man. She did innocently. When the man left, Ijeoma's auntie told her that she had good news for her. "You see this man that just left? He will take you to school and give you all that you want if you marry him." Immediately Ijeoma heard marry. All the excitement in her froze. Auntie, I am just 13 years old, she said. Ijeoma, you were very intelligent, Auntie Amaka said. You can cook, I trust you, she said again. I will not marry him, Ijeoma told her auntie. Auntie Amaka looked at her from head to toe. It is not a request, Ijeoma. Your bride price will be paid tomorrow, and you live with him. It felt like a dream to Ijeoma, but it was real. When Ijeoma spoke back at her auntie and told her she wasn't going to marry him, her auntie gave her a beating of her life that evening. For the first time, Auntie Amaka flogged Ijeoma as if she was a thief. That night, Ijeoma overheard her auntie making funny sounds from her bedroom with her husband, which she later knew as she grew older. It's called mourn during intercourse. Her auntie was loud that she could hear them from her bedroom, which was just next door to theirs. That same night, when everyone was fast asleep, she went to the table where they kept their keys in the living room. With the bruises all over her body, she took the key. She opened the main door and she ran for her life. That night, Ijeoma ran for her dear life. What she took from Auntie Amaka's house was the phone number Uncle Mike gave her during her father's burial. She didn't know where she was going to, but she kept on running. She was an intelligent girl, and everyone in the village told her that, so it was time she used some of her intelligence to help herself. She made sure she ran as many kilometers far from Auntie Amaka's house. When she was sure she was far away from the house, she thought to call her favorite neighbor Auntie Ebere with someone's phone when it's daybreak and tell her Auntie Amaka wants to marry her off. But she remembered she didn't have Auntie Ebere's phone number. That same night, she looked for a place to sleep. The place had a chair, which the owner faced down, so she brought up the chair and slept on it. The next morning, as early as 7 a.m., the owner of the place came to open the place. It was a fashion shop. "Young girl, what are you doing here by yourself?" the owner asked. "Good morning, ma," Ijeoma greeted her. "My name is Ijeoma, ma. I am looking for my uncle," Ijeoma said. "Which of your uncle does he stay here?" the woman asked. "I don't really know, ma. Please, if you can help me to call him," Ijeoma pleaded with the woman. The woman looked at Ijeoma for a while. "Give me the number, let me see." Ijeoma handed the number to her. She removed her phone and dialed the number. As she was dialing the number, many thoughts began running through Ijeoma's mind. Maybe she shouldn't have run away. What is she going to do if Brother Mike was not in the same state which she is currently in? What if he lives very far from where they are? She didn't think of any of this before running out of Auntie Amaka's house. She's just 13 years old. Why is all this happening to her? Why would Auntie Ebere, her neighbor, even let her go? She was still in thoughts when the woman told her that Uncle Mike had answered. "Hello, Uncle Mike. It is me, Ijeoma Ejike. You said I should call you when I needed your help." "Yes, Ijeoma. How are you? Where are you now?" "Uncle, I am in Onitsha." "Onitsha? What are you doing in Onitsha?" Uncle Mike asked Ijeoma. Ijeoma stammered. "You know what? Today is a lucky day. I am actually on my way to Onitsha to buy goods for my shop. Just stay where you are. I will come and get you," he said. The woman's shop was a popular fashion shop in Onitsha, so it was easy to locate. The woman allowed Ijeoma to stay in her shop until Uncle Mike came. Ijeoma stayed in her shop for about an hour and some minutes before he came. He came with his truck. Uncle Mike thanked the woman for letting Ijeoma stay with her. Ijeoma went to the car and sat at the passenger side. Uncle Mike entered Onitsha's main market and bought what he needed to stock up his shop. They stayed in Onitsha, buying goods for almost 5 hours plus. When he was done, he drove back to Asaba. "What are you doing in Onitsha?" Uncle Mike asked again. "I came to live with one of my auntie, but she wanted to marry me off to an old man." "Your auntie? Which of them?" he asked. "Auntie Amaka." "Amaka? I don't really know how. Your father's stepsister, right?" Ijeoma said yes. "I am so sorry about that," Uncle Mike said. "You know, I am your father's friend, so just feel at home when you get to my house." he said. They drove all the way to Asaba. It was a smooth ride. He first went to his shop to offload his goods. Then he took Ijeoma to his house. Uncle Mike introduced Ijeoma to his wife. After the introduction, he went back to his shop. Uncle Mike has 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. The 2 sons were older than Ijeoma, and Ijeoma was same age as the only daughter. That evening, Ijeoma was treated with love. When Uncle Mike came back from shop, he told his wife Nneka all that Ijeoma had passed through. That night, Ijeoma slept peacefully until the next morning at around 7 a.m. when Uncle Mike had already gone to his shop. Ijeoma woke up with water all over her body. Auntie Nea had poured the water on her. If you are not lazy, your auntie wouldn't have tried to marry you off. In my house, you are still sleeping by this time. If you like your stomach and you want to eat anything today, you will have to clean this house sparkling clean. Wash my children's clothes, wash all the dirty plates. By then, her children had already dressed for school. Tears flowed down Ijeoma's eyes as she shivers in cold. It was 2 p.m. and Ijeoma hadn't had any breakfast yet. Auntie Nea gave her loads of house chores to do. Uncle Mike left early for work. She washed, cleaned and swept the house. By 2:30 p.m., Nneka's children had already returned from school. Ijeoma just started washing the dirty plates they used in eating last night. Nneka didn't give Ijeoma a breathing space. Tears rolled down Ijeoma's eyes. Auntie Amaka never treated her this way. Did she make a mistake by running away from Auntie Amaka's heart? With the way Auntie Nea started treating her, she isn't even sure of going to school again. That day, Ijeoma ate her breakfast by 6 p.m. and that was all she had for the day. And that was dinner time for Nneka's children. When Uncle Mike came back and asked Ijeoma how her first day at home was, she said okay. Because of the way Auntie Nea looked at her, she was scared for her life. She was afraid to tell Uncle Mike what happened. For the next 1 week, Uncle Mike always left home early and came back late. He wasn't even around, and Ijeoma was faced with doing the house chores alone. When Ijeoma escaped from Auntie Amaka's house because Auntie Amaka wanted to marry her off to an old man, Amaka woke up early to go prepare Ijeoma for her wedding. But when she got to Ijeoma's room, their room was empty, but her clothes were still there. Ijeoma! Auntie Amaka screamed her name, but there was no response. Honey, Auntie Amaka called her husband. Where is Ijeoma? She asked her husband. Are you asking me? She slept here last night. I am very sure, Auntie Amaka said. What am I going to do now? This girl has killed me. Maazị Okeke has paid part of her bride price, and I have used the money. Auntie Amaka said. You used the money? What did you use the money for? The husband asked. Babe, for the hair I showed you now, that hair that I told you that I wanted, I used the money, Auntie Amaka said. In the afternoon, Maazị Okeke came with his people to finish the bride price of Ijeoma and take her home, but on reaching there, he was told that his bride-to-be has escaped. He was really disappointed and angry. He gave Auntie Amaka 3 weeks to provide his money or the bride-to-be, or she sees the other side of him. And the truth is that Maazị Okeke paid a heavy sum as part of payments for the bride price. Auntie Amaka was left in the state of confusion. Now, it's been a month since Ijeoma escaped from Auntie Amaka's house and started living with Uncle Mike and his wife Nneka. Uncle Mike got admission for Ijeoma and told her to prepare the next day that she was starting a new school. Uncle Mike made sure Ijeoma got everything she ever wanted. He was a very kind and good man to Ijeoma. Ijeoma sometimes wished he didn't marry someone like Auntie Nea. He made sure she started school the next day, very early. Ijeoma enjoyed her first day at school. When she got back home, Auntie Nea beat her mercilessly for returning late. That day, Nneka did the whole housework, and the most painful part was that Uncle Mike also returned home late. That day, Ijeoma had bruises all over her back, but no one would notice unless she removed her clothes. One Saturday, after everyone has gone out, Ijeoma was left at home to do the house chores. Nneka went to the market and the children went to play in the next neighborhood. Ijeoma decided to have a little nap. She went to her room to rest for a few minutes before she continued her house chores. Few minutes into the sleep, she noticed someone touching her. Immediately, it became too obvious. She opened her eyes and she saw Amaka, Auntie Nea's first son, beside her. "What are you doing here?" Ijeoma asked him. Amaka was 19 years old. "Calm down, you will enjoy it," Amaka said. She started struggling with him, but he overpowered her. She was just 13 years old. She screamed, but no one heard her. Amaka raped her that afternoon. After the drama between them, Amaka went out as if nothing had happened. Ijeoma sat on the bed crying. Bloodstain was already on her bed sheet. It wasn't long her madam, Auntie Nea, came back home and saw the dirty plate still outside. She started screaming Ijeoma's name. "Ijeoma, Ijeoma." She went to her room and saw her on the bed crying. "So we still have 30 plates in this house, and all you do is to sit on your bed crying?" she asked angrily. "Auntie, Amaka forced himself on me. He raped me," Ijeoma told her madam. Auntie Nea lifted her gown and saw a blood stain on the bed. "Go to the bathroom and wash up. Clean yourself up. Wash this bedsheet sparkling clean. No one else should hear this, else I will bury you alive and no one would care to look for you." Ijeoma stood up and went to clean herself. One day, Uncle Mike finally saw his wife maltreating Ijeoma. He was really pissed. "Nneka, why are you doing this to this little girl? Is she not too small to be treated this way?" Uncle Mike asked. "So how do you want me to treat her? So that you will go ahead and sleep with her like my friend Oluchi?" Nneka asked. "So because of what happened over 18 years ago, you are treating this little girl like this? And let me remind you that Oluchi wasn't a maid," Uncle Mike said. "She wasn't a maid, but she lived with us and she was helping me out with house chores. And you still find a way to sleep with her." Nneka said. "Lest you forget, your friend Oluchi drugged me. She put something in my food that made me helpless that day. I told you I was sorry. You said you have forgiven me, and you still bring this up. You think I will stoop so low to sleep with a little girl?" Uncle Mike asked his wife. "We don't know people. She will soon grow up in this house, and you will start having eyes for her." Nneka said. "Ijeoma is my friend's daughter. Don't ever treat her like a slave again. I really thought you had forgiven me. It is really disappointing that you don't trust or believe me, even to this moment," Uncle Mike said, and he left the house that evening and drove to his regular bar to have a drink. Uncle Mike drove to the bar, thinking about how his wife still thinks little of him for something that happened many years ago. Ijeoma left to finish all the house chores before she could get some sleep. She slept late and woke up early. Sometimes, Auntie Nea made sure she missed school classes. Her schoolmates at school already knew her as a notorious latecomer. It was no longer a news in school that the new girl in school was the most unserious. Even when the principal asked Ijeoma what was wrong, she said nothing. Maybe if she told her and the principal goes to confront Nneka, she will be stopped from going to school entirely. It was between her and her God. She doesn't even have time to do assignments. She made a new friend in school. His name is Chinedu, a male about her age. They gisted, but Ijeoma never told Chinedu about what she passed through in Auntie Nea's house. She only told him that her madam was a strict woman. Chinedu is 2 years older than Ijeoma. It was no longer news in the neighborhood in Onitsha, where Ijeoma lived before with Auntie Amaka, that Ijeoma escaped. In fact, Auntie Amaka told some of her friends that Ijeoma stole her money and escaped. As the days Mazi Okeke gave to Amaka was counting, Amaka was seriously in search of Ijeoma. She doesn't know anyone here, so she wouldn't have gone far. Amaka had thought of calling Auntie Ebere, but if she called Auntie Ebere, it would look suspicious, so she let it slide. Uncle Mike was in the bar thinking about what to do next. He didn't want his friend's daughter to suffer in his house because of him. As he drank, he thought. He finally concluded on taking her to an orphanage. I am sorry, GK, for disappointing you. I couldn't even take care of your only daughter. While you were gone, tears dropped down his eyes. He paid the waiter and went to his car. He was a little bit drunk. While in his car, he was thinking of taking Ijeoma to an orphanage was the best idea. Then it quickly ran to him that he should give the little girl to his sister in Lagos to take care of her. Yes, that is what I would do. He quickly brought out his phone to search for his sister's number. On quest of looking for the phone number, he wasn't watching the road and he was hit by another coming car by the other side of the road, and there was a massive crash. An accident occurred. Auntie Nea was still in her house that night when she received a call that her husband was involved in a terrible accident. She rushed to the address of the hospital that was sent to her. On reaching to the hospital, she was told her husband was dead. Nneka cried that night in the hospital before going home. Immediately she reached home, the first person she faced was Ijeoma. Winch, you have succeeded, right? You have succeeded in killing my husband. You know my husband left the house this evening because of you, right? Tomorrow morning, you will pack your things and leave my house, Nneka told Ijeoma with anger.